Hi, and welcome to Regenerative Revolution. This is Jacki Saorsail, and I'm here with Isaiah Urth, and we are doing basically a fishbowl consulting session where I'm helping Isaiah come up with a business model for his nonprofit UrthKynd, which is working in LA as well as a few other locations around the globe, starting regenerative gardens. In LA, it's urban gardens using various pieces of land that are being underutilized to grow food for the community. He's particularly serving low income and historically underserved communities. And so we've been working through his business model, talking so far about the general idea, the value proposition, who his customers are, what he wants to give them, how he's going to make them happy, and how he's going to market to them is what we talked about last time. Today, we're moving on to talking about money matters, his financial goals and income, expenses, really with the goal at this point of figuring out what his immediate financial goals are and how he's going to meet those. We've been talking a little bit about fundraising, so getting a little bit more specific on that, how much money he needs to raise, getting some numbers behind that so it's not just guesses. And let's start real quick by just checking in with Isaiah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Very excited to dive into this, and sounds like a great segment.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I'm doing well. I just wrote a long blog post about marketing for my Patreon page. I have a Patreon. The link is below the video. So please join if you want to support what I'm doing and read my blog posts and see my personal updates and hear about the behind the scenes creative process. And also wanted to mention the fact that we are currently live streaming on Twitch. It looks like we have one viewer. Hello, viewer. And you are welcome to communicate with us in the chat room. Just throw out whatever you want to say, and we'll try to respond and answer any questions you have or address any suggestions. We want this to be a community conversation because this is a community organization, and Isaiah can't do it all by himself, and he's looking for people to support him. Also, there might be other people out there who want to do similar things, so we invite you all into the conversation. Um, and if you are watching this on YouTube, join us next time on Twitch. Link is below. Also, you can comment, like, subscribe, all of that jazz. All right, here we go. So this is my Regenerative Enterprise Design Workbook. You can see it here on the screen below me. It is my little workbook where I have all the questions that I'm going to ask Isaiah, and I'm going to take notes. So you get to look over my shoulder and see what I'm writing, and that might be a little bit annoying because you get to see all of my annoying typos and me trying to fix them. But the point of this is that this is Twitch, which is an open platform, and people just drop in the middle. And so we want to be able to catch people up so they're not constantly asking the chat room, what's going on? You can just read the notes and see what I just asked and what he said so far. And, we can Twitch this. So, all right, financial goals. What are your financial goals, Isaiah? Specifically for the next year.
For next year,
Yeah.
I would like to see, I think, as a primary goal, one or two locations that are regenerative, that are sustaining beyond sustaining themselves. So one or two urban plots that can generate, more than enough energy to continue on without any external inputs, from my own pocket or investors or donations, but yeah, people powered, making, hopefully an income for the community, community owned ventures like co-op models, begin implementing something like that. And yeah, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you have any numbers to put to that?
Um, I mean, there are kind of some rough numbers in terms of, so one, like for one crop, for example, I was thinking bamboo is
Mhm.
pretty nice. It's a nice, natural windbreak, or it can be. And then potted bamboo plants I know can yield, I mean, there's edible, they have edible shoots as well as, your potted varieties.
Mhm.
Um, Roughly 10 tons per acre of edible shoots that are actually, I think they actually have some nutrition in them.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one thought. And also potted, the potted ones can go anywhere from 60 up to, the sky's the limit, kind of depending on the size.
Mhm.
And I was also thinking of garlic. I know garlic is, a lot of people love it. You can use it in tinctures and all kinds of things.
Mhm.
So roughly, I don't know. It seems eight a pound is kind of maybe a little high for organic garlic, but um, maybe depending on the variety, maybe if it's like a black garlic or something that's kind of unique or rare, maybe it could be, around 8 to 10 a pound.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, and on average, I know that I've read and studied, it produces around 15,000 pounds per acre.
Mhm. Yeah,
So that's possible.
garlic is a high producing crop, both in financially and also calorie wise. It's actually like the densest calories per square foot that you can get from a plant.
Mm-hmm.
Little
Wow, I
little
didn't know
info,
that.
yes. I have this lovely book over here called One Circle. It tells you how to grow a year's worth of food in like 1,000 square feet or something. It's ridiculous. Um,
Wow.
so anyway, garlic. That's cool. Okay, so you have some ideas for how you might be able to bring in enough money to sustain a location. That's cool. I think what I'm more looking for is like, what do you need to do as far as fundraising goes to get things set up to get to that point?
Hmm. Um, yeah, see, that is an interesting question because having not yet narrowed down the plot of land
Mm-hmm.
for a larger scale project like that, it's I find myself, I would have to run two separate sort of equations, one for concrete and one for soil that needs basic repair, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some soil building
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but has no toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's that's kind of where I am right now. I'd
Yeah.
have to run two models, and soil is pricey here,
Okay.
at least
Well,
in LA.
but you don't have that location yet, but you do have some locations. So what are you doing with the
Yes.
locations you currently have?
So on a smaller like community scale, um, something that's more on the lines of a community garden or community like co-op.
Mm-hmm.
It What we have right now in LA are a series of pieces of like backyard land that people aren't really using.
Mm-hmm.
That they'd like to see it growing something. They would like to see it productive.
Mm-hmm.
Also, can if it looks nice, it can maybe increase the appeal of the property. So a lot of times now people are also they're looking at selling, they're looking at leasing. There's all kind of changes. Um, there's not typically enough to eat and go around, and so there's a lot of good benefits. But I think one of those benefits is that it can be profitable. It can be like a
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds pretty vague. Now, I know you currently have a couple of locations where you're using some spots there in LA, don't you?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say using. They're in the works,
Uh huh.
but we're kind of stalled. The city has a composting program. They produce some pretty good compost out of green waste. Um, I like the steps and the filtering that they take when they're producing it. It actually seems like a really clean product that
Mm-hmm.
they dropped off, as well as a lot of wood chips. But right now, what I'm lacking the people power. I'm lacking the wheelbarrows. The tools,
Mm-hmm.
or even the ability to just hire someone with the machine. Like a little bobcat to simply get it where it needs to be, roughly 50 feet, moving the soil. Because it's a mountain of soil. And to try and do it with one person, it's just not, I was out there moving stuff, and it's a lot of work. I'm no stranger to hard work, but
Yeah.
yeah, trying to be prudent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen bobcat rental places. It's not that expensive to rent a little tractor with a front loader for a few hours.
Here
So
we're talking 5 to 650. Is the 500 is about the cheapest I
mhm,
found for
mhm,
2 hours.
mm. Do you need to hire somebody to use
Um,
it?
I mean, I could figure it out. I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
There's not a lot that I could, that I could damage in the alley. So as long as there's
Uh-huh.
like no license or anything, I could totally do it. But yeah, to have someone just drop it off, and they would, the people who I called, they would do it themselves.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, even an hour to two, it's around
Okay. Well,
600.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, I've seen like in the
Mhm.
country where you can like just
Oh,
rent
it's
it,
so
use it
great.
yourself, and put it on your tractor and go,
It's
put it
amazing.
on your
Yeah,
truck and take it. Yeah, it's like
that would be great.
that's not as hard, but yeah, maybe in the city and
Mhm.
having to get it there, I can see how that would be more of a pain. 500. Okay, so $500 to $600. We're getting some numbers.
Mhm.
You need tools. Let's see, wheelbarrows
We're
and
starting from
tools. How
scratch.
much money do you think you need to get for like some gardening tools for your little location you currently have?
Um, well, okay. So one location is about 3,000 square feet. The first one, the one across from that is about 2,000 square feet.
Uh huh.
The 3,000 square foot is all concrete. The one across from it is grass. It's been grass for years
Uh-huh.
and years and years.
So these are like really
Um,
close to each other?
they're really
Okay.
close to each
So if you
other
had
with an
like a
alley.
wheelbarrow, you could use it in both locations.
Yeah, a
Okay.
lot easier with the grass location
Sure.
because it's like 4 little steps to get up there from the alley.
Mhm.
However, with the other location, you have to get into a gate, and then it's on a big concrete like platform about 3.5 feet off the ground.
Oh.
So what I had going was like a little ramp out of some 2x4s, and I'd take the, bit by bit, take the wheelbarrow up the ramp, dump it, go back down the little ramp, and then one time I was going up the ramp, and it actually, like, the weight flipped backwards, and I went backwards, landed on my back, and it was like a movie. Like, the soil flew up, and I was just like, oh, and I was just like, that's all I could do. And then when I woke up, I was under like 3 feet of soil. So that wasn't the greatest method. Soil's
No.
heavy, and then you
Yeah.
got the gravity, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not
Hmm.
good. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds difficult. How big is that spot that's on the concrete? You said
About 3,000
3,000
square
square
feet.
feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the
Yeah.
question is, because I've never grown really on concrete before, so then it's like, we probably need, we need to build beds, we need to buy fabric beds, um, or maybe we can pile it high enough on the concrete to where for one season, until we can raise more money, we're just growing on the concrete and kind of, it's 6 to 11 inches, of soil. But I'm not sure how that works yet.
Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can grow quite a few things on a platform like that. They just can't have really deep roots. You're
Mhm.
looking at annuals, greens. I mean, you could put you could go vertical. You could put
Mhm.
like a whole hydroponics kind of system in.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do some sort of like
Those, I love the
trellisy
grow
thing or
towers.
grow
Yeah,
towers.
those grow towers are nice. The thing is with hydroponics, it's, I think it's debatable, but you don't get the same enzymes and everything that soil has, that good
Sure.
quality, so you're kind of just, I think you're just kind
Yeah.
of getting at the calories and NPK and maybe some vitamins. but it's not the same, you know, and
Yeah.
it's not truly regenerative, or is it, you know?
Um, yeah, I think it's not as much. I mean, I think it's interesting seeing some of like the Korean natural farming stuff because you are
Mm-hmm.
fermenting all of those inputs. So there is some living organisms in the water. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
not dead. So you know, I think it can be pretty good, and of course, it depends on what you're growing. I mean, there are water plants that
Mm-hmm.
prefer to grow in water. You know, like watercress. You know, like that
Mm-hmm.
makes total sense. Um, but you know, or just like greens, microgreens or something where you're going to have to dump out and compost the dirt. You know, you're constantly switching it out because you're only growing them this tall. You know, I think for some things it makes total sense. Other things you might as well just use dirt. But anyway, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of things you could do, but yeah, a lot of those things do require more infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
than just getting like those big fabric, you know, raised
Mm-hmm.
beds like you were saying, like they use in pot farming or something. That would, and those are fairly movable as well. In fact, I just saw a post of somebody here locally who just moved their farm to a new location, and they dug up the dirt from their yard and put it in those things and just brought it to the new farm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you can
really
move
cool.
them, which is cool, especially when you're doing this kind of urban gardening where somebody might change their mind and you can't do it
Mm-hmm.
there anymore. That might be a better idea than building permanent beds.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So let's put that down on the list then. Like fabric, grow pots,
Yeah.
pots, whatever. Um,
There's
do
some
you,
pretty cool fabric farms, like fabric pot container farms and
mhm.
container gardens out there. Um, so that would be worth studying some more. Yeah, I mean the hydroponic stuff is really fascinating because if you can do hydroponic, my guess is you could probably do aquaponic and switch it over. So that's, you know,
Mhm.
aquaponics is pretty cool. You get a lot of nutrients and vitamins from that. Very regenerative,
Mhm. Mhm.
seems.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of
That's
different ideas for the concrete one.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I agree the fabric grow pot things probably make the most sense. They're not too expensive. Do you know how expensive those things are each?
Mm, let's see. So like um,
Do I need to
maybe a
Google it?
3 gallon.
Uh-huh.
Um, let's see, 3 gallon. Oh wow, $1.24 for a 3 gallon. Now if you go up to five, I think it goes. Let's see, 5 gallon. Oh wait, no, these prices are off a little. Well, I'm seeing one for $1.53 for a 5 gallon, which is pretty crazy. I've never seen that price before. Um, Great deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've also seen people growing in like 5-gallon buckets. Um, I mean, we were talking about doing like bamboo in pots. Like you could use that space to start things in pots that you're just going to sell in pots.
Hmm. Hmm. One
Um,
thing, another reason why I said bamboo is there's like a native bamboo growing like
mhm.
between a neighbor and yeah, between the two properties, a lot of bamboo. So I was thinking like, okay, propagate that bamboo that's sort of naturally, you know, it's being very invasive, um, and put it into pots and turn it sort of into a product. You know, let it mature for a year, and you know, and sell it at varying prices depending on the growth stage.
Mhm.
It's kind of creating something out of nothing. You know?
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you could also start trees or other perennials that you could sell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's a lot that you could do, but you don't know yet what you want to do, which makes calculating things difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I would always go for like the most nutrient dense things that can be saved, and but that's not. I don't really see it possible. I mean, the concrete slab is a north facing, sort of northwest facing property, and then being concrete poses
Is
some.
it shaded?
It is kind of shaded, yeah.
Like full day shaded or just part of the day?
Just more than the average sort of property.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and in LA the temperature is kind of steady, right? Kind of just warm. It doesn't get like too hot there, right? Oh, I can't hear you. Your sound went
Oh,
away.
sorry.
Okay, there it
Yeah,
is.
it can get pretty. Yeah, it can get pretty hot, and um, yeah, but for the most part, I mean, especially like fall, winter time. Yeah, once we're out of the crazy summer heat,
Sure, sure.
we're
Yeah.
pretty stable.
Yeah. Just here it gets like over 100 and muggy and crazy. And you got the
Right?
ocean there to regulate it a little bit. But uh yeah, I mean I think you should get specific about what you want to do first. I mean, are you gonna develop out this spot first, or are you gonna, look at getting some more space first? What are you doing?
I think if I mean, the goal really is to get one of them profitable, to an extent.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, because if one of them is profitable, that's like, maybe hopefully one or two part-time jobs, one or two full-time jobs. I mean,
Mhm.
um, well, 1,500 square feet, if it's in full production, probably need some part-timers too. It's a lot of work, maybe
Mhm.
for one spot. But yeah, I mean, it could be as simple as doing a fundraiser and saving, maybe looking at grants, looking at even maybe a partial loan for the hydroponics towers, because they actually make, I think those are actually compatible with aquaponics,
Mhm.
but they also make the ones that you put soil in, and the soil just grows and composts as it produces.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those are pretty neat.
Yeah. I wish I could see this location that you have. Do you have any pictures?
Yeah, I could provide some aerials or some photos for you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, talking in this much hypothetical, like I really can't help you. I need you to get specific about something that you actually want to do.
Well, it really comes down to the type of the timing, because the timing will really dictate the type of crops. You know.
Uh-huh. Um so I mean it's actually getting a little bit late to plant in the fall, but it looks like you've got some work that you need to do to prepare it. So are you thinking like spring you would start the first crops?
Mm,
Or do you want to get something in the ground right now?
I think something that will work, because our falls and our winters are pretty, generous here. Um, I could theoretically get the fall crops going
Uh-huh.
as starts, and see if we could just get them in the ground.
Yeah. Um
Just do one or two things to make it easy.
Garlic is actually planted in the fall. It should be planted in late September to mid October.
And
That could
oh,
be
really?
something to get started. I mean, you might want to look specifically at NLA, but your grow season for it. But yeah, you could get a bunch of garlic going. And well, the thing with the fabric grow pots is, or if you use 5-gallon buckets or whatever, which you might be able to get for free if you sniff around, then you wouldn't need a bobcat because you could just fill the buckets and move the buckets after they're full.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could do, well, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for garlic to use 5 gallon buckets because you don't need that much height. You need more width. They're not, I don't think they need that deep of, I'm guessing garlic needs like a foot and a half.
Right, right. That
Uh,
sounds about
yeah,
right.
they probably don't need like, full 5 gallon bucket of height. But I could look that up. Garlic uh, depth of soil. You plant it 3 inches deep, 6 inches apart. How deep should garlic soil be? Oh, that doesn't help. Uh, meh, not getting the answer quickly. Yeah. I mean, you could look at the details later, but yeah, I like the idea of getting some pots and filling them up with that dirt you've got, and just I mean, just start setting them out. However much labor you have, fill that many pots and plant them and set them out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's worth it to use the space
Mhm.
and just see, what comes of it.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe in between the garlic rows, like some more quicker turnaround crops.
Oh, some greens or something. Yeah. Yeah, you could totally plant some lettuce or spinach. Uh-huh. On the surface. Yeah, I like that. Mhm. Mhm. And would you put those on the concrete side?
Yeah, that's a tough call. Um,
I mean, you could always move them
but
later. I assume that the dirt is over on
the
the
certain
grass side, right?
pots. Oh, the dirt's in the alley.
The dirt's in the
Like,
alley.
yeah, like it's not, well, it's not like a city alley, like a terrible, disgusting alley. Like this alley was, they did like this city program and they re revamped it and they
Mhm.
did tons and tons of wood chips, and it looks, it's a lot cleaner now. It was always a very clean sort of alleyway.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's not good soil, good, really good mulch.
Mhm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Do you have any other ideas?
I mean, another idea would be maybe reaching out to some local restaurants that are still in business. I mean, because the thing is, when all of this sort of started, the idea was, reach out to sort of get a feel for what the community needs, but also what the local restaurants. And now that's kind of changed a little bit. We can't really use that restaurant piece because so many places are now out of business, or
Mm.
they're streamlined or reduced hours. So, but I mean, it's still worth doing the groundwork to research. Like maybe there are definitely some like farm to table like restaurants out there, I think, that would appreciate having a farmer growing a specific crop that they need or that they want. Maybe even something that's unique, like I said, like these purple tomatillos came out really amazing, super spicy.
Mhm.
um, there's this amazing radish called wasabi radish, and those are just really tasty, amazing, just so good. They just
Mhm.
seem like they have tons of antioxidants,
Mhm.
things like that. I always like to kind of look at doing something a little special.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'd love to do ultimately anyway, is grow for um, not only making like organic, healthy, tasty food affordable, um, but also um, maybe challenging the palates of people who are more discerning with food, um, and saying, hey, check this out. You know, how does this taste compared to what you're used to? And then really focusing on growing food for amazing taste and nutrient density, you know? And that's kind of like, that's something I'd really love to get into. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sounds cool. And I'm thinking about the purpose of your organization, which was to, help people um, who are, what does it say? Improve health outcomes and access to affordable food within historically underserved communities, which doesn't say anything about selling fancy food to restaurants. Um,
yeah. I mean, hopefully that food is on par or actually better than the food that people can get from distributors, from organic distributors and from, I mean, hopefully, and it really just depends on the amount of inputs you're able to put into the
yeah.
soil, to make it of that quality. I mean, it will be organic, it will be clean, it will be beyond organic.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
will it
I believe
taste
that.
good?
I believe that it will be
Hopefully.
better than anything you could get even at Whole Foods. I mean, if you're growing regeneratively, that's going to be the highest quality.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't doubt that the quality will be there. I think what I am questioning is, whether you really need to grow these fancy heirloom varieties, or if, maybe growing food like garlic that everybody eats and everybody will want, including those people in these neighborhoods that maybe don't normally cook a lot, that wouldn't use those fancy arugulas, that they would appreciate and actually want to show up and do work in exchange for. Um, just concerned with, focusing on what's going to have the highest impact for your purpose, which was to provide, affordable food to
Mm-hmm.
people who need it, not just fancy food. So, um, uh, yeah, I mean, I like it, or bamboo. I mean, for that reason, like for that matter, that doesn't seem like a food crop that a lot of people would appreciate, unless you're in an Asian area where everybody cooks with,
Yeah, and
bamboo
we have
shoots.
lots of Asian communities,
Uh-huh.
and every community loves Asian food.
For sure.
I mean, just about every community. We had a pretty amazing Chinese food place, like really close by,
Hmm.
and they use bamboo shoots in their food. And I don't know if it would, um, if it makes sense for their budget, to go with a locally produced,
Yeah.
bamboo shoots, but some chef out there would love that.
Yeah.
And if it's the most nutrient dense per square foot, like
Hmm.
that's got to be a winner somehow,
Yeah.
but you got to get people into it. You got
and
to
I,
get.
and I believe that, I do think it would be a very high quality product that some, very fancy chef would use. But I don't think your typical corner Chinese store is going to buy that over the super cheap stuff that they get from Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we're having a shortage, which is very possible coming up,
Yeah,
with everything going the way that it is. You could
yeah.
probably sell just about anything if things do hit the fan. That's the way that I think they might be going soon. Um, but at the same time, uh, garlic is easier to store. It is more calorie dense, easier
Mm-hmm.
to grow. Well, I don't know about easier to grow, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do much to it other than water until it's time to harvest. Whereas bamboo, you have to constantly cut those shoots. It's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
constant harvesting. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
even
so more labor.
harvesting, even staying on top of harvesting something like that, or tomatoes, is such a pain.
Right.
Constantly harvesting. So yeah, I keep going back. I really think garlic would be a good thing to start with, if you're liking that idea, and
Yeah.
if you could do it in the pots, um, then you don't necessarily need to get the bobcat, because you can just fill them as you're planting. Um, so you would really just need the pots and some wheelbarrows to move the pots around in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Sure. Sure.
Does that sound good as a plan
Yeah.
to start with? And you could do other stuff later. You're probably not going to fill the entire property with pots of garlic.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be something to start with to get you going. And then, I mean, yeah, and like you were saying, you could plant some greens on top of the garlic, and then to harvest, and more immediately. And then people might even want to buy the pots with the garlic already growing in it. You could sell those. People could take them home and finish growing it themselves as a function.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea, and it's one consistent, predictable crop. I mean, nothing's ever predictable, but yeah. And if there's something else that can be grown with it, that might, or at least half, half of the one of the properties could maybe do garlic, and then the other half something that has a faster turnover, so you can start eating, because otherwise I think you're waiting 9 months for a return on investment.
Yeah.
But
no, I totally think you could, like, you do the rows yay far apart, and then in between do a row of greens,
something that you can turn over,
and then that'll be done by the time the garlic really pops up and takes over the container. So
sure.
That'd be cool. The one thing I'm worried about here, though, is buying that much garlic to start all of these is going to be a little expensive.
That's very true.
It's more expensive than seeds.
To
buy garlic.
And the containers, it looks like you need at least 6 inches, which really seems like they would take a lot more to me. But actually, no, I'm looking at the different videos here, and it's like, doesn't look like it requires a lot of space at all.
No, I mean, I've got some garlic growing at the community garden that's like, they're right next to each other because they just kept growing. Nobody harvested them, so they're just like all packed in. But I harvested some, and they've got decent sized bulbs just like crammed all together. So I harvested some and spread them out. But
yeah, and just by taking, I mean, my mind's just moving now, just by taking some of the compost and having it dumped onto the concrete. 6 inches is not a whole lot. Like, you could just totally just rake it and form the beds right there on the concrete, and it would I mean, maybe it would work,
I would think drainage would be an issue as far as putting stuff directly on the concrete. I think if you were even going to build permanent beds on the concrete, you'd want to put down a few inches of like rock on the bottom and have a way for the water to get out. Or else I think what would happen is you'd end up with spots that are pooling that would get icky, or like you'd end up with kind of like under the dirt like rivers that would slowly wash the dirt off of the concrete. Does that make sense? Because water can't go down, so it'll start going sideways and it'll wash the dirt off of the concrete. So you'd want something enclosed and then have some drainage under it, which really makes sense to put something like these grow pots you're talking about on top of the of there, because then it'll just do all of that.
Or even some like rock, some of the heat, I think it's called peat rock or something, like the rocks that they use in like kind of like hydroponics or like to drain beds, and then have it like lined with maybe some bricks or something, so the soil doesn't just like wash. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, the containers sound good too. I mean, they're cheap enough, especially if all you need is 6 inches.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think that was a really good idea as far as a first project to start on. And obviously you can do something else after that. But okay, so how many pots do you think you would want to get initially to get this going?
Oh wow. Okay. Let me see. Continue. That's a good question. Geez, just trying to see like how many.
I'm guessing they sell these things in bulk in a certain number, like 500 or something. So maybe just a bundle of them.
Yeah, let me see what they go for in bulk. Actually, I think it's it's something very reasonable. I mean, 1,000 or 2 wouldn't be wouldn't be hard. I don't think.
Hmm. Oh wow, yeah, these things are cheap, cheap. 1,000 of them, but you want the wider ones for what we were talking about, not those tall, skinny ones. 10 size options. Yeah, 1,000 is cheaper to get them in 1,000. There's the
Almost $1 a piece.
5 gallon, 7 gallon, 10 gallon, 15 gallon, up to 80 gallons. What? What? Uh, so that's 100. Ooh. Okay, for 1,000 of the 5 gallons is $840. That's a lot, though. Probably don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
500. 500 of them is $425.
Mm-hmm.
5 gallons. They also have a 7 gallon size here.
Mm-hmm.
That might be nice, give you a little more space. But yeah, these are still like, they're sized for growing trees in, so they're kind of deep. I'm wondering if there's like less tall, skinny ones.
Yeah, I'm looking at even the 2 gallon ones are like $1.08. Um, but yeah, I'd have to do some research. I mean, maybe the 2 gallon that
Ooh.
provides 6 inches of worth of
Okay, I
six
should
inch
be
height.
doing
Yeah.
this on this computer so everybody can see it. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see. What did I search for? I searched for shallow. Oh, I'm using the wrong keyboard. Hold on. Shallow, bulk, uh, raised, fabric raised beds. Yeah, there's these like rectangular ones, which might make even more sense. There's square and rectangular ones. Um,
Oh.
yeah, these are more expensive though. These are on Wish. Ugh, Wish. I don't want to buy from Wish.
There's a
No.
site here called 247garden.com.
Uh-huh.
They've got a 2 gallon and it's 6 inches tall by 10 inches diameter for $1.08. But I'm gonna do some research because I'm not. 2 gallons really doesn't seem like a lot for something that's going to be in the pot for 9 months. But I mean, maybe I've never grown garlic before.
Uh-huh. Smart pots, long 6 foot, 6 foot long. Oh yeah, there's those ones that like billow out on the sides. They're like long and skinny, but it looks like billowy, like that. Those are pretty common. But yeah, that's like they want $30 something for just one of them. No, no. Okay, okay. Let's just say that we're gonna have a budget of like $500 for some pots.
Yeah, let's do some more. We'll do some more research on the garlic. It actually says choose a pot that's 18 inches deep and 12
18.
inches wide. So this is actually a bit different. So I don't know if maybe the first one that I read was
18.
like for a certain kind of garlic.
That's a foot and a half deep. Yeah, that's kind of the max I thought it might be, um, for garlic. If it's too shallow, they'll fall over because they're tall and skinny. You know, they're stocky, so they gotta have. Typically a plant has as deep of roots as it grows tall, so you want to give it enough that it can get down far enough that it won't fall over. Anyway, we're talking garlic, and we've been talking this for a long time because I want to get specific. I want to know what it is you're wanting to do right now, not this like hypothetical. I want to make a garden sustainable. That doesn't give me anything to work with. Like I need numbers. We need to know how much money you need to raise right now, as in tomorrow, to do a thing specifically.
Yeah, and we'd have so roughly a month and a half, I guess, to grab. the seed garlic, the pots, and get everything in its right place.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe there's a shorter turnover fall crop that's really popular. Um, let's see. I mean, beets are pretty versatile. I mean, they can be eaten raw, cooked. You can pickle them. You can make juice out of them.
Hmm. I mean, there's
Uh,
like fall greens like kale.
sure, yeah, kale's always a winner.
Hmm.
Turnips, carrots, radishes, lettuce, cabbage. And there's so many options.
Hmm.
Um,
Spinach. You can grow spinach in the fall, right? People eat
mhm,
spinach, like Popeye.
mhm.
Lettuce,
Peas, leeks.
lettuces.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Either way, you're gonna
Let's
need
do
some
this.
grow beds. You're gonna need some wheelbarrows and tools. Let's just say you're gonna make a budget of another $500 for your tools, so you can get some nice shovels and stuff. And then you need seeds, and that's gonna be maybe not quite so much, but like $100, $200. How much do you think you need for seeds?
Ooh, yeah, I would say 200 max. I mean, it just depends really on what we settle on.
Yeah, I mean garlic's gonna be more expensive than other seeds, but
Yeah, and I think we'll run into a lot of the garlic being kind of sold out. I mean, unless I check, I mean, Etsy is always a good bet. But usually, yeah, around this time, they start selling out. Um,
of like specifically seed garlic, because I've just bought it from the organic grocery store before and planted it.
oh, cool.
That
Yeah, that could
that
do it.
can work.
Yeah.
Just pull it apart, stick it in the ground. If it's from organic, I mean, you just don't want to get conventional stuff to plant because they often treat it so it won't sprout, or
Mhm.
it hasn't been treated temperature wise very well or whatnot. But yeah, like get it from natural grocers. Just buy a bunch of garlic, you know. Um, so yeah, but yeah, $200. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at raising somewhere around $2,000 total for some things, unless there's anything else big you can think about that you need money for right now to get something going.
Um, that's it. I mean, another thing is probably the drip irrigation, but
Okay.
that's, I mean, with some hunting around, and keeping an eye out for, maybe stuff people might throw away, but it's a hard one to come across. So probably, just drip irrigation.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not a
Yeah,
lot.
I thought of that a minute ago, then I forgot. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that hosing, like, if you use the kind with the emitters, those hoses are really cheap. Um, and that's probably, if you were doing pots like that, you would want to use the kind where you poke the thing in the solid plastic tube. You know what I'm talking about? It's not a soaker hose, it's the drip system, and then you just stick that right in the middle of your pot, you know. And you can get the ones that drip, you can get the ones that spray. um, I've set up whole little systems with like all sorts of different emitters on different kinds of plants before. It's fun. uh, but yeah, the hose itself isn't that expensive. The emitters, yeah, you're looking at a couple bucks each, or a couple dollars for like a little pack of 3 or something. um, but yeah, you could end up spending a couple hundred on that. But yeah, still we're looking at around $2,000.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get really clear on what can be done immediately on a big scale, fast turnaround. A couple other ideas were like microgreens and mushrooms. Those are pretty
Mm-hmm.
fast turnaround crops. And I don't know. I don't know if I can use that. Um, well, actually, I've got that soil, but I also have a lot of bagged soil still that I haven't used. That I was using to amend and it's organic. Um, so that's another thought that would go a long way with microgreens, and it's like 7 to 12 day crop.
Mm-hmm.
I have racks like commercial NSF. I think they're called NSF certified um, food grade sort of racks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think they've got like 6 levels,
Mm-hmm.
and it would hold about 30 10 by I think they're called 1020 flats.
Yeah.
It would hold like 30 of those per rack, and there's 4 racks.
But wouldn't you need like a greenhouse for that?
Um, I think that they can't get too hot. Um, there are some that do better outdoors than indoors, but all of them just about will work indoors under fluorescent lights. So you like put the fluorescent lights on the under. So like there's the rack, and then right under the rack it's shining. You tape the light so it's like shining down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it, and I've grown mushrooms commercially, but yeah, it's a lot more setup, a lot more money to get the equipment, all the racks, and all of that sort of thing.
Mhm. That's what I'm
And
saying. We have the racks.
oh, you
So
have the racks.
we have the racks. We have the soil to do. Probably have enough bagged soil, not including the compost. But I just I would want to test that compost before I use it,
Mm-hmm.
just out of curiosity. But I mean, I'll show you the website. It looks like it's produced like pretty conscious minded, and it's
Mm-hmm.
when he delivered it to me, he says, I grabbed you the best stuff that I could. And when he
Mm-hmm.
dumped it out, I'll just show you a picture of it. It
Mm-hmm.
looks so like almost they could sell it,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was really proud of that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's a thought. I mean, I have a lot of 10, 20, maybe 20 of them sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
So really, that's something we could do numbers on is maybe microgreens.
Okay.
It's
So
such a
green.
fast turnaround. You could test it out really quick. Don't even need packaging because once you package it, it's considered a prepared product. So you just sell the flats by themselves, which I know people are selling between 20 and, I mean, depending on the location, 20 and $35, 20 to 35 per flat of microgreens.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you'd sell it by the flat. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you have racks and you have flats, or do
Have
you need?
racks. Probably need some more flats because I think they're going to hold about 30 per rack. I probably only have like 20. Um, and
And
that would,
okay.
mhm.
And how many racks did you say you have?
I want to say there's about 4
Okay, you have 4 racks that hold 30 flats.
big
So
racks. Yeah.
you need more flats to fill those, and you're gonna sell them by the flats. So you need like a big case of flats.
Yeah. And I mean, it
Uh-huh.
might be worth it. I mean, I need more flats anyway because if I use everything that I have for the microgreens, I need some for the fall crop for getting some things started for fall.
Hmm.
But yeah, it'll be worth it. I could at least test out the idea and create some stickers, um, and test it out locally, see if anyone buys it.
Hmm. Yeah, sure, sure. Um, so you want to do that before you buy more flats and stuff, though? I want to know what do we need to make a fundraising campaign for you for right now?
So let's say 120 flats, and um, because half would be in production and the other half would be for like the following week, so we always have like a turnover.
Hmm.
Um, and so we got the flats, we have the racks. We're going to need fluorescent lights,
Hmm.
uh, the little fluorescent strip lights.
Hmm.
Which let me grab the price on that really.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it too. You don't want the mesh flats. You want the ones without without holes.
Okay, so I see a 6 pack for 45 bucks, and they're the 2 feet. I'd probably need the four, so the 6 pack would be 75. But that would cover one light would cover one rack. So yeah, $75 per rack, and they last pretty much forever because they're LED.
Wait, you're talking about using lights, fluorescent lights on it?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a way to just go with outdoor until there's like a proof of
Yeah,
concept.
well, where would you put it indoor to put the lights on it? What
I
location do you
just
have for that?
I'd use this I'd use a spare room.
Oh, you
Got a
do it
spare room
there.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah,
Would you want to like bring
growing.
people into your house though to do that? No.
I don't think that's safe in this time,
Okay.
but um, I mean, for the educational piece, it can be done with like distance learning and stuff like that. If we're teaching people, as far as um, taking the flats and delivering them, we don't really need customers or uh, anyone inside, because we want to minimize the germs and the spread of anything.
Yeah.
Keep it
Well,
real
I'm just
clean.
struggling to see how you growing microgreens in your house is fitting with the.
Sorry, you're
Sorry.
real low. Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Putting it
Sorry,
in my
struggling to see how.
see how you growing microgreens in your house is fulfilling the vision purpose of UrthKynd.
Well, it's I've thought about this a lot. So it's multifaceted
Mm-hmm.
because we want to address wellness disparities by, one way of doing that is, the concept of, food, great nutrient dense, high quality food that tastes good is accessible to everyone. And I think microgreens, they have to be a local product because they wilt so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one reason perhaps why big mega corporations haven't really been able to come in and seize this microgreen industry yet. It's going really strong because you have to really have like a local footprint. You can only get so big before it becomes a logistical nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Another one is, if it is successful, I've heard of, and I've read and I've watched videos of people growing microgreens in a spare basement, in a spare room, in a spare garage, and they're making 100,000 a year. Now that was before a lot of this was pre-COVID, when people were making 100,000, selling to chefs and restaurants and things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
But it just shows that it's very possible, and people,
yeah.
also the fact that they're so nutrient dense when they're so young,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a very quick turnover. It's low energy,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take a lot of resources, but it's definitely a cancer fighter. That's proven.
Yeah.
They've done all these
Sa-
medical studies on it.
Same with mushrooms. You know,
Yeah,
theirs are very similar, and I
absolutely.
did grow mushrooms in my
Hmm.
basement as a business.
What was
So
that like?
it was stressful. It was a lot of work.
Really?
Even just one grow room was a full time job. So
Wow.
it's a lot. I mean, I was producing about 100 pounds of mushrooms a week in a very small room, and that was uh, full time income for one person. Unfortunately, it was me and my ex husband doing it together, and it wasn't quite enough money to support both of us. Um, but then I got a grant from USDA and got a shipping container and a used refrigerated semi trailer and built a new grow room. In the semi trailer, really just ended up using the shipping container for storage and for the equipment and stuff, and use the semi trailer for the grow room because it's already insulated. I mean, that's just the perfect pre-made grow room as an insulated semi trailer. Um, and yeah, got it all built out from the grant and was going to do a whole farm. And I mean, my vision at that point was that I was going to get this full time income going from it because it's year round. It's stable and it's you can get a good amount of money for it. And then I was going to start hiring people and then expand the business from there to do microgreens or outdoor crops, and create a whole cooperative farm around the mushroom farm, because the mushroom farm would be like a nice initial stable income for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially like I love to cook and I love curries, I love soups and just like deep soul filling type of dishes and stuff. I just love, especially anything that I cook, if there's a bunch of vegetables that, oh, you probably can't donate these to anyone, probably won't use them in a salad, we'll make a vegetable stock. Like there's always something you can do. And I love how mushrooms, you can make mushroom powder for stocks and
Hmm.
soups and for seasoning.
Yeah.
I've even made mushroom rubs where you rub it on to your food before you cook it, and it just adds. Even if you're just like grilling vegetables or something, or frying some vegetables, like just to coat it in that like a beautiful powdered mushroom tempura batter. Like
Mm.
you can just get so creative with it, and it's
Hmm.
so healthy,
Yeah, yeah, I
So
loved it. I loved having them all the time. And I was doing shiitake, maitake, lion's mane, oysters, reishi. Um,
wow.
yeah, it was really cool.
Mm. I
Um,
love a mushroom miso, like a really good mushroom miso soup. Yeah, mushrooms and microgreens go amazingly well
mhm,
together, I think. Um,
yeah,
I mean, maybe we should be talking about indoor and outdoor. Maybe we need to look at maybe something like that. Because I've
yeah,
got that indoor space, got
yeah.
some outdoor space.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is kind of an argument that I've gotten in with the regenerative community, is whether indoor growing can be regenerative. Because, like with your the regenerative organic certification that they just created, and by they, I mean Dr. Bronner's and Patagonia. Looking at you, because I gave them lots of feedback telling them not to do it and they didn't listen. Um, they were like, no indoor
Wow.
growing. I'm like, but what
Wow.
about mushrooms? What about microgreens? What about
Yeah.
aquaponics? Like, what
Yeah.
about the farms that rely on those crops to feed their outdoor crops? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
growing mushrooms and I'm using that as compost for my outdoor operation. What if you're
Very
taking the
powerful.
soil from your microgreens and composting it and reusing it? Like, isn't
Exactly.
that
That
regenerative?
was my thought. Yeah. Why isn't that regenerative?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
some beautiful worm castings, beautiful, mealworm casting. Like that's some good stuff. That substrate.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so I think indoor is an important part of being regenerative. I mean, because you can do more year round, you can make your farm more sustainable. You can, do things with like composting and stacking functions. Because you've got this like indoor space to use for multiple different things. So yeah, yeah, and especially with an urban setting like you're talking about, if you had an indoor space, or if you could build something on that concrete slab like a greenhouse, um, then that would give you a whole nother level of potential to be able to do more things, to be able to generate more income. I mean, a greenhouse is so much more potentially profitable than just an outdoor garden. And if you're wanting to create jobs for people, then these like much more compact growing operations, especially in an urban area, would make more sense than like, oh, let's get a bunch of acreage and grow corn or something. Like that's not going to work. You want to get the most bang for your buck, the most
Absolutely.
impact per
And
square
small
foot.
scale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Micro businesses, micro
Mm-hmm.
enterprises are beautiful, and
Yeah.
I think they are regenerative. I think they are to a degree, sustainable, or can contribute to the regenerative piece.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I
Um,
always wanted to figure out a way to actually combine growing mushrooms in the same room as growing other crops. It's a little challenging because mushrooms like it cooler than most crops. It would have to be like a cool weather crop. But if you could figure out the right combination, mushrooms inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Plants
that's
inhale
what I was
carbon
going to say.
dioxide and exhale mushroom
That's
or
CO2.
exhale
Yeah.
oxygen. And
Beautiful.
I
Beautiful exchange.
yeah, and I think that there could be some ways to balance the system for pest management and whatnot, because they say, oh, you want your grower to be perfectly sterile in growing mushrooms. It has to be clean, and I'm just like, there's got to be another way. Mushrooms don't grow in a sterile environment in nature, right?
Yeah, and I can understand the contaminants. You don't want contaminants and stuff,
Right.
but
You need it to be in
um,
balance. So what if
yeah,
you could add plants to your grow room and make it be balanced?
Yeah, like microgreens inhale CO2 and exhale
Yeah. They just tend to like
H2O.
warmer, but maybe it's just if you grew different microgreens, different plants, because everybody grows the same, microgreens. It's
The
always like
same
radish
type
and
of
broccoli. Although,
sunflower. Yeah,
yeah, broccoli might like it a little bit cooler though. I mean, some of these plants
yeah,
grow in
broccoli
cooler.
germinates pretty cool. You can germinate.
Yes. So I would love to play around with that or help you play around with that some, to try to figure out how to make that work better. But yeah, mushrooms, microgreens, or you could go back and forth. You could have a grow room that's growing mushrooms in the winter and growing microgreens in the summer because it's cooler and hotter.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
So maybe that would be a really good way to maybe that would be good something to run the numbers on, you know,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
because the data is already there. So many people have done it. It's totally on Google.
Yeah, totally. And well, I've got my numbers on my grow room at mushroommodules.org.
Oh,
um,
that's so cool.
yeah. Um, so anyway, okay. So we've been talking for an hour, and it's time to get off, and we haven't gotten past question number one. Which I kind of expected to happen because we haven't gotten really specific about what it is that you're wanting to do immediately. And I really want to get that before we move forward because just talking to you a bunch about vague, eventual, visionary stuff is not going to help you make your first steps, right?
I love the idea of. I mean, this is great though. I mean, it really dials in. I've had all these thoughts and all these ideas, and it's like instead of just taking this massive piece and saying, "Let's make something happen that requires all this energy." We don't yet have a lot of volunteers that are like, "Okay, I'm boots on the ground. I'm ready. Let me know." You know, we need to quantify like what people's involvement is going to equal to them, because I mean everybody wants to help, everybody wants to see resilient food sovereign community, but at the same time people have immediate needs like eating, income, things like that. So right away, if people could jump into learning a farming method that produces great yields. I mean, you may not want to eat mushrooms and microgreens every day, but if you absolutely have to, you can definitely live off of it, and it's definitely small footprint. It's regenerative. It contributes to the outside crops.
Mm-hmm.
You can make another product from the substrate and throw away compost, which is worm castings and high quality compost. So, um, maybe that's the way, especially in small urban environments where not everybody has a yard, even not even, and if you have a yard, it's typically pretty small.
Yeah.
But everybody can find an extra maybe 50 square feet,
Yeah.
and even if on a small scale, that helps someone's
Yeah.
family.
Or
Not selling,
yeah,
eating it.
or even people in apartments could have a pot growing
Mhm.
some garlic and greens,
Mhm.
or a flat of microgreens, in their window. So
Sure. Sure.
so providing people with kits,
Mhm.
pre-planted kits to do that, showing
Mhm.
people how to do it, taking care of
Mhm.
them, giving people jobs doing
Annual.
that.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to go. And thinking, and I like how you brought that in from the beginning. Like, well, we could pot, bamboo and sell it potted. And I started immediately thinking, like, yeah, you could sell plants. You don't just have
Mhm.
to sell vegetables
Yeah.
like
Plant nursery.
harvested. You can sell, potted plants, microgreen kits, stuff like that, mushroom kits. Um, and yeah, like those kinds of things, yeah, take some space and infrastructure to set up, but then you can distribute them. So, like mushrooms, for example, and we'll stop here in just a minute. But just my vision with the mushroom farm. Another thing that I really wanted to do with it was to have a inoculation business where we would inoculate sawdust or logs and then sell those, to
I
other
love that.
growers, because
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
awesome.
lot of infrastructure you need to especially with these gourmet mushrooms, you have to you have to sterilize the sawdust. And for that, it really, when you're using sawdust, it really doesn't help to not sterilize it. You have to sterilize it because mold will just take it over so quickly. So yeah, that takes like a huge autoclave if you want to do very many of them at once, and that's very expensive. So like building up to the point where I could get like a walk-in autoclave and be producing those at a massive enough scale to be able to supply 10 other growers with all of their bags at an affordable price. And then all of those people are able to make a living. And yeah, you can't get pre-inoculated mushroom bags like that for less than $10 a bag often ordering them online. So if you could get them for $2 or $3 a bag, and get 100 of them, that's very possible to make a living off of, with very little. Like somebody could grow those in their basement, with very little overhead. So anyway, that's what I eventually wanted to do. So if you want to do something like that, I am totally down to figuring out all of the tiny little details, but I think you need to get clear about what it is that you're wanting to start with here. Just like I decided to start with a mushroom farm. What are you going to start with? Is it going to be microgreens? Is it going to be pots of garlic? Like what's the thing that you're going to start with that's going to give you that initial income that's going to allow you to hire people and then diversify?
Yeah, it's hard to choose between the two.
And this is homework I'm going to give you with, because you're probably going to want to run some numbers and think about it some more. So yeah, basically I want to leave off here, and I want you to spend the next week thinking about it. And if you do kind of start to land on something, start pulling some numbers together, because yeah, I'd like you to come back to me with at least a rough estimate of how much money you need to raise, and a plan.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm definitely leaning towards the mushrooms and microgreens, even if it's half the room mushrooms, because literally there are 2 rooms here right now that are not being used. And one of them is roughly 500 square feet, and the other is probably 250. But yeah, they'd make excellent rooms, and they're just not even really being used right now. One was like an art studio, and it's pretty, it's just empty now. So
cool. Well, I could definitely help you with either of those. Yeah, if you wanted to look at my my USDA report, it's at mushroommodules.org.
awesome.
So,
yeah, we'll do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to our viewers, and we will see you again next time.
Bye.
Bye.